we're going to talk about the three considerations of observability at scale. It's not the first observability you have, but when you get to scale, what are the challenges you have and what we're seeing in the industry. Real quickly, one slide on us, I have one slide later, but basically the rest I'm going to talk about the problem and a couple case studies. But Lily, ChaosSearch has really started to tackle the challenges of operational data at scale and do analytics at scale. Simply stream your data into your S3 environment. Literally, we're read-only. We take that data as it's streaming in, we write it back into the S3 environment. It's 100% in your S3 environment, and we do hot analytics on that. We focus on operational data, think logs and metrics. What we're able to do is take that and use it for different use cases. We open up open APIs to it. Think Elasticsearch API, SQL APIs. You can use Kibana, Grafana, OpenSearch dashboards, or your SQL tools to go after it. It's great for use cases like best-of-breed observability, which we're going to talk about today, but also the same data sets is one unified platform. You can also have other users use the same data representation. Think about security data lakes, long-term retention for extended, also deeper application insight. How do you want to get the insight for your business units on that data? So without further ado, the challenges of observability, if you think about it, it's really the speed and data are critical to compete in this world. But the big macro challenges with observability are, and what's driving the phenomena is really around the softwareization of the economy. Everyone's a software company. All our clients are driving this, and because of that, they have to take a lot more data in. It's all about this usage growth, but this is what's driving a lot of the different use cases. Second thing is, as you go to cloud, I don't think I have to talk about the benefits of doing cloud-native application development, but what you're using is containers. Compared to what you used to do, virtual machines and virtual, this is actually driving infrastructure fragmentation. So you need a tool to look at all the different pieces so you can piece it together and understand what's going on in your environment for your observability or security. And then last but not least, which is one of the big drivers, is you want your developers to move fast. It's about software productivity, software developer productivity. And what's that is we're giving the developers JSON as a uniform way of doing log analytics and the logging, but we're giving them flexibility. The challenge with this is semi-structured coming at you fast, and we're giving the flexibility to developers to change the schema as they see fit so they can move fast but have good logging. With that really becomes the complexity of this data sets. So it really comes down to this development, the speed, and the scale, but basically these type of things are important, but it also drives a lot of production issues around observability and security. So it comes down to you need someone to centralize it. You need to bring it all together so you can look at it cohesively, and that brings in the idea of centralization. So bring it all together in one platform. Bring your log, your metrics, your traces together so you can look at it. And that works out perfectly, or is it? The challenge with it is it starts easy. In fact, you find different departments buying different observability tools for either software developers or DevOps teams. It starts easy, but as it scales, it becomes really bloated and very expensive. And we'll go through some of the challenges there. But really, why? It's these solutions are application. They're about having very quick, snappy interface, but monitoring and acting quickly. It's better at small data. For instance, metric data is very small, but log data, when you have to do actually investigation, is larger. It's a log data that's really causing the challenges where you have an environment that's made for this small data or relatively small data, but as you grow, it becomes hard and they're not optimized for it. So what happens is it's not the metric data that's driving the cost and the bloating of these environments, it's really the log data. And you can see it in the pricing. So if you think of these environments, it's not unfair, but it's basically look at log analytics inside an observability stack. Think Datadog, think New Relic, think Grafana. They actually charge you separately for your log data, which is actually much larger than metric data or tracing data. And what happens is they charge you separately, anywhere from 80 cents to $3 a gigabytes of ingest, and they give you very limited retention. Why? The architectures are not developed for this. The architectures you build to actually have quick, snappy performance on small data is not the same to go after literally petabytes of data that people are trying to do in these environments. So they have to charge you for it. And also, it's only there for a certain amount of time. So you think like Datadog, maximum 30-day retention. If you think about observability, you want to know what's going in the environment. But for developers or for SRE teams, they kind of need to know the last time they issue. So 30 days is not sufficient. The other thing is, so how do you solve this? They say, well, let's keep less data or keep it for less time. The challenge with that is you go to fix a problem, it's over 30 days or 14 days or 7 days, all the breadcrumbs are gone. So you kind of force, but the other ways you used to do it is just don't keep as much. And that's what we see all the time. But the challenges with that is in the end, it doesn't really support the business because if you, let's say an SRE is trying to find performance issues because of observability, you start with something, all of a sudden you want to look at, hey, I had bad performance. You want to look at the last quarter end or the time period you're in. This quarter end I had some performance issues. You want to look at last quarter end or Black Friday event, whatever it is. And again, you don't have the logs to go after that environment. So you're in a tough pickle. But this is what's really driving the cost, the bloating. So you love your Datadog, you love your New Relic, it just becomes bloated with cost. So you can't give the tool to everyone you want to. So the key consideration we see at scale is what we see is typically people have tools around observability. They're using it. In fact, sometimes they have more than one tool. And you'll have to worry about having the right tools, but you don't want it sprawl all over the place. So what we see is a couple things: retention and scale, the toil you have to go through these environments at scale, and then the tools and make sure you have the right ones. But the retention's all about finding out, hey, you got in the situation, you run out and you rolled out particular observability, you love the tool sets, but you don't like the bill. But you really have to look at what's the retention you do need, what's the business require for either observability or security on the business side. It's typically longer than you can actually afford to on your observability tool. Second thing is on the toil. As the data comes in, it's messy data. You have your teams managing the pipelines, managing the clusters, Black Friday events. It's not necessarily Black Friday itself, but your events in your industry that drive big increases of usage. Those are the environments that really are the toil and break down the pipeline, or you have to manage a cluster for uptime. Those are the events that really hurt these environments because they're not built for this type of scale. But you have to really look at how much my team is required to manage these environments. And last but not least is tools. Find the right tool for the right job. And that's what we see the trend. I'm going to go through a couple of examples. People using different tools but as one cohesive solution for either the SREs or their security teams or their developers directly. So I said I have one more slide on what we do. So basically what ChaosSearch does, I talked about a cloud data platform for operational analytics at scale. Basically you build a database. Literally stream your data into your S3 environment. That's all you have to do. We activate that data. We give you that data back in the form of APIs, but as it's streaming in, something happens in Asia Pacific, within a minute you have it in your dashboard, now you're going. Queries are even though you're doing queries over petabytes of data, you're in seconds as far as resolution. But you're able to now use your existing tools because our platform it's not for one use case, it's a unified way so you can look at all the different use cases. And that's a key thing. It's a unified platform for operational analytics. So we open up open APIs. Elasticsearch APIs allows your team to use things like Kibana or Grafana, OpenSearch dashboards, go after API calls directly, or SQL allows you also do the same thing using your SQL tools. And we have those tools embedded in our environment, but you can use external tools. But it's good for use cases like, because we have Elasticsearch API, we do see people replacing Elasticsearch at scale. Lucene backend just becomes kind of hard to manage, very expensive, brittle at scale. So we do see people replacing Elasticsearch, running in parallel, read-only environment, we're running in parallel. All they do is turn off Elasticsearch, you save money. Typically what we see is about 50 to 80% costs, hard dollar savings. Free up your team from the toil of the pipeline in the cluster, but also what you're able to do is keep retention. In each and every case, our customers go from 7, 14, maybe 3 months of retention. They go to years of retention overnight. It's just that simple to do, and it's on your S3. It's very cost effective. But the other use cases, same data, now you can use for different personas. Think about the security data lake. So you're using a SIM product, but you want longer term retention for logs. It's not 3 months or a year, 2 years, but think of all you want where cost effective, an order of magnitude more cost effective to keep those environments. So it's also good as a complement to your SIM or XDR. And then the one we're going to talk about is actually observability. So it's a complement to what you're doing with your observability tools. Keep your tools. We're going to talk about how we work with Datadog, Grafana as examples, but really any of your APM tools. But what happens in each case, because of the simplicity, literally just land your logs in S3. That's all you have to do, and we take it from there. You get this game-changing simplicity. Every case study is freeing up your SREs or your development teams 15 or 20 hours a week. That's a significant savings as far as the toil you have to go through, and then also the cost. Now in this time, if you could find environments that give you better retention, but also save you 50 to 80%, I'll show you an example of 90% with Equifax, but that is significant in these times, but you get more. It's an and statement. You get more and you save money, and it's rather dramatic money on large dollars. So the area we see for best of breed observability, I'm going to give you 2 examples where we see is people are using their APM, they're using the observability. Think Datadog, think New Relic. Think any of the tool sets. And these are really good at having detection, monitoring detection, quick, figure out how to resolution fast. You combine that with what we do on more the, think about operational data lake, troubleshooting exploration. Go back, once you find an alert, now you got to go back how to solve it and do it across the environment, make sure it doesn't happen again. Same thing in security. But it's 1 and 1 is less than 1. I'll give you an example of Datadog just to kind of bring it together. So Datadog for a 30-day log retention charges you $2.80 a gigabyte. If you just turn a knob down to say keep 7 days and then keep 2 years of data on us, literally it goes down to 20 cents. What you're able to do is our list price of 80 cents a gigabyte ingest plus their just turning down the knob is actually less expensive, about 50% the cost, actually more than 50% savings, of this what you're doing with 30-day retention for Datadog. So you end up having Datadog. Don't keep your Datadog. You'll love your Datadog. We don't want to change that. They're good in application. But you combine that with what we do on the security data lake or the data lake for observability data. Now what you have is actually you save money. Now for Datadog, what happens is people are able to get Datadog to more people. If you want to be budget neutral, now you can put Datadog in the hands of everyone in your environment. Or you can save money by doing it, about 50%. Same thing when it comes to security, but also we see in observability another trend where people are saying, listen, I can't do these environments. I'm going to do a new architecture. And Grafana is one that's really leading this. We see them across the enterprise where Grafana is saying, listen, there is not one thing to solve all. It's in the background, I'm going to modularize and we have different repositories for metrics, traces, and logs. Well, why? They've identified one solution doesn't solve them all cost effectively, and that's what we're able to do. So where we fit in is use Prometheus for metrics. It's actually rather small data. You can also do data sampling. It's rather small data. You need fast monitoring and resolution, but then you have to go to logs, and then you keep logs with us, and also Grafana and Datadog, they all allow you to add widgets. So you go from Grafana, which can directly go after us natively, but you can also literally if they want to use Kibana instead, you add a widget, and literally you're looking at your dashboard, this is your SRE or your developer, you hit a simple button and you go directly into logs in a deep way. So it's easy integration of all these different product sets. So good case study would be Equifax. Equifax consolidate 12 different divisions, each with multiple clusters for analytics onto us. They're using us for observability across the enterprise, but also for a security data lake. We saved them 90% hard dollar cost. They actually had to look at the case studies a couple times before they actually approved this, but 90%. This is tens of millions of dollars. We're able to save that money. Also very fast time to resolution. They were using Elasticsearch and OpenSearch and Splunk, and they can use the same tool sets. But I love their quote. With ChaosSearch, we no longer have to move or transform our data. They just land it in S3. And that means we don't have to think about what we're going to do with the data before when we ingest it. We just have to query it. That's how simple it is. We land the logs, their data team, the SREs are freed up from taking that data and transforming it and putting it into different clusters, like Elasticsearch, OpenSearch. It's just there to query using your different tools. So that's probably the best indication. It just frees up your team. So their case study literally shows 9% savings. We freed their SREs up in writing 15 or 20% a week on average. They're also using our SQL interface to do more of a dashboardy type of thing for their SREs worldwide. And then so maybe to wrap it up, literally, if you look at having one centralized, the metric data and the log data is coming at you so fast. It's really building, especially if you're cloud native. Put it in one environment and then let your apps take advantage of that data. We talked about what we can do in SIEM and XDR. They do what they do well, and then you're able to come to us for long-term retention. But the same repository, now you can use the observability or security, but also think about cloud data warehousing. They don't deal with this messy data, JSON data very well. We deal with it natively without pain. So now it can just be another source. You're doing something in Snowflake, you're able to do something, do another query to us and bring it up to your application. And we deal with this messy data without the challenges of pipeline or scalability of the environment. 1 and 1 is actually 3 in that environment. Same thing for business use cases. Think about you want to change your billing. You're a software company, right? Or you're a SaaS company. Well, I want to change my billing. I want to do based on API utilization. It's a simple SQL query. Who's using the API? Well, who isn't using the API? How do I bill upon that? So again, this repository is rich for all the business use cases, and it allows us to do it, and we do it just simply in one repository. So centralize your log and metric data, and you use it across your enterprise for the different use cases. Make sense? So if you're interested, come by our booth. It's literally 3040. It's literally 5 minutes away, or no, it's 50 yards away. Thank you very much.